It's the Canada's Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Canada's Podcast Network. I'm your host, Mario Toneguzzi. Joining me today is Pierre Cleroux, who is Chief Economist with BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada. Thanks for joining us today, Pierre.
My pleasure.
Today we're going to talk about COVID-19, the coronavirus, and its impact on small businesses. Let me just start, Pierre, by asking you like a general question is, what is the feel that you get and the sense that you get out there about the impact this is having on small businesses throughout the country?
Well, the impact is very severe. We keep track of the impact by survey about more than 1,000 SMEs so every second week. And our latest result, which was produced just last week, shows that 90% of SMEs across the country are negatively impacted. So to give you a perspective, the first week of the lockdown, this number was 40%. The second time we surveyed people was 73%. Now we are at 90%. So obviously, the impact is really hard on small and mid-sized firms in Canada.
So when you're looking at that total impact, what is the major fear here? Like how many of these businesses can actually survive depending how long this will continues on?
The biggest problem for SMEs is what they are telling demand. So you remember at the beginning of a crisis, we thought that the lack of supply coming from outside, for example, from China, was going to be a problem. But actually, right now, the biggest issue is the lack of demand because many areas, Canada is basically in lockdown and will be for the next few weeks. So basically, a lot of companies are either shut down or the demand is very low. So that's the biggest issue. How long, to the question, are people going to survive? Well, it's going to depend really how long the lockdown is going to happen. We hope that, for example, at the beginning of May, the lockdown in Canada was mostly done and people will be able to restart. The economy is going to restart and their business is going to start to restart. So hopefully, with all the programs that the federal government did and also some provinces, hopefully, the business will be able to wait until May when the economy is going to restart.
Is cash flow the most important thing for these businesses right now?
Definitely. When you're locked down, your revenue stop, but your cost is still running. A lot of people had to lay off their people, but they still have a cost related to their rent or their mortgages or they pay their equipment and everything. So this is really the big problem right now.
Okay. So when you look at the companies that are going to survive this, what is the key for them to survive?
Well, to the business who are selling online, they are doing better because they are able to continue to have some revenue and they're going to sell. The interesting thing, we have been saying that for 3 years. We did a lot of studies showing that people they were able to sell online either on their own website or through another platform, like for example, Amazon, it's quite popular. Even like before the crisis, 2 or 3 years ago or last year, they were doing better than other companies. But this crisis is showing that this is really true. So companies who are already selling online, they are able to continue to operate in many cases. So this is going to make a huge difference. And I believe that after all this is done, the online business is going to accelerate more than what we saw before the crisis.
That's going to be one of the major changes you see for businesses going forward?
I think so. I think the online business is going to be a major change compared to what we saw before. It was already there. Online business was increasing by 15% every year. But I think Canadians are taking the habit even more now For example, a client was telling me he has a grocery store, and he said he received much more order now, but what surprised him is much more for baby boomers who are not typically the one who will be using the online business in the past. So I think we're going to have much more Canadians who are going to get this habit. So this trend, I think, is going to accelerate.
Okay. Pierre, tell me what BDC is doing to help small business owners in Canada right now.
Well, we're doing a number of things. First of all, we are able to our clients, we're able to postpone their capital for up to 6 months. So we're able to. So, for example, if you have a loan with BDC and you need to postpone your payment for a period of up to 6 months, we are able to do that very quickly. Also, we are part of the federal government program on loans. So we are able, with the financial institution, to work to a loan up to $6.25 million, and EDC is able to do the same. So the total amount could be $12.5 million. But in order to do that, you have to contact your financial institution first, because they are the ones who are going to evaluate your needs, and they're going to work with BDC and EDC to provide the company the best loan possible. So that's basically the involvement of BDC. We also do a lot of loan online. So there's a number of ways that BDC is trying to help businesses to go through this difficult period of time.
Okay, one last question for you, Pierre. What would you say would be your major tips or advice for small businesses to get through this crisis right now?
I think what is important to remember that the recovery is going to come. I know it's hard to believe right now because we are in such a lockdown across the country that it's really depressing. But the recovery is going to come. When we look at other countries around the world, especially to China, because China was the first country having the virus, it's also the first country to recover. And although China is different from Canada, we can learn from that experience. And what we are learning is when the lockdown is over, the economy is restarting quite quickly, especially in some sectors like construction and manufacturing. It takes a bit more time on the consumer sector, but what we learn is the recovery is going to be quite quick compared to other recessions in the past. So what is important to remember right now, do everything you can to protect your business, to secure your business for the next few months, but be ready for the recovery. It's going to happen.
Okay, then. Thanks a lot for joining us today, Pierre.
My pleasure. Thank you.
That was Pierre Cleroux, Chief Economist of BDC, on Canada's podcast network. I'm your host, Mario Tanaguzzi.